Hi, families. My name is Jonathan Sauls. I'm the Interim Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs here at Carolina, and we welcome you to Carolina. We are so glad that you're a part of this orientation experience. I have to say, this is very different than what we are all accustomed to. Normally, at this time of year, I'd be in a large room with several hundred of you, and we'd be meeting and visiting in person, and I hope that we'll be able to get back to that very soon. But in the meantime, fate has conspired to cause us to need to do this from a distance. And so I welcome all of you to be part of this session, whether you are the parent, guardian, grandparent, partner, spouse, or sibling of an incoming student. We welcome you to this session and glad you're a part of it. We have a lot to talk about. We'll have some fun along the way, but this is an opportunity for us to talk about the newfound partnership that will exist between you and us here at the university as we look to support the academic success of your student. I know the pressure's on me to do a good job because you're in a position of watching this on video. And if you get really tired, you can simply hit that stop button. But I do hope that you'll find some of the information along the way valuable to help your student in their new experience. This is, of course, a new and different time. We are very much in uncharted territory. The pandemic, I'm sure, has affected the communities that you're in, the families that have been impacted as well. And we recognize it's had a big impact on the university. We're recording this video actually in mid-May, and I anticipate that at the time that you're watching it, a great deal more information will have been shared about the opportunities that will exist at Carolina in the fall, what kinds of instructional formats we'll be using, and a little more about what the on-campus experience might look like. But whatever format we wind up providing instruction, you should know that your students will have everything to look forward to in terms of a really wonderful adventure of curiosity, self-discovery, and personal growth. You know, this is the time of year I usually begin to reminisce about my own Carolina experience. A little over 30 years ago, I came up here from Miami, Florida as a first-year student. Didn't know anybody in the whole state of North Carolina and wound up living in Morrison Residence Hall for my first couple of years. I actually, after my sophomore year, met my wife-to-be. And we wound up for many years with both of us working on campus, working in the buildings that flank either side of Morrison Residence Hall. And so we sort of laughingly acknowledge that we never really left the corner of Manning Road and Ridge Road. Fast forward a number of years, and our oldest daughter just graduated from Carolina. She, like so many other Carolina students, is still looking forward to her spring commencement in person, but we have nonetheless celebrated her graduation. And for many of you, you have graduates that you're celebrating as well, probably from high school or perhaps other programs that they were participating in. And like so many of you, I am getting ready to send off my youngest daughter to college. Couldn't make it a clean sweep, couldn't get her to pick Carolina as her home institution, but nonetheless, we're really proud of her as you are, of your student. And we are excited to be sending her off to her college of choice. And we will have to see what the fall holds, whether we move in person, whether she takes classes remotely, still to be determined. But I know she's excited about embarking on her own experience. This Carolina family that we talk about has been a big part of my life, and I know soon it will be a big part of yours. Normally, I would ask how many of you have already sent students off to college, and perhaps how many of you already have Carolina connections. So you'll just have to reflect on that there at home or wherever you're watching this video. But know that some of you have experience with this. Some of you have been down this road before. You know what it's like to send a student off to college. But I also want to acknowledge that for some of you, this is the first time that you've had that experience, and it's not an easy one. There's going to be a lot of excitement, as there should be. You're beaming with pride, and you absolutely have the right to. And I know that you're also a little bit of a bundle of nerves, probably made a little bit worse by the climate in which we're all working because there's so much uncertainty. Whatever your role, again, parent, guardian, grandparent, supportive partner or spouse, or even that younger sibling who got drug into watching this video along with mom and dad, we want you to know that your role in supporting this student is not going to end, but it is going to change. It's really important now that you help your student find their path for success, that you shift into a new role. We're not here to replace you. In fact, I can let you in on a little secret. We test and survey students every year to kind of find out what are the influences that exist for them as they go through their college experience. And one of the things that we find year after year is that students continue to tell us that notwithstanding that they come here and meet new faculty members and staff members and friends, that parents and family members remain the single biggest influence on their college experience. They may never tell you that. They might not even want to acknowledge what an important role that you play. But I guarantee you, you will continue to have an outsized influence in their life. And so we don't want you to go away. We don't want you to disconnect. We want you to transition your role as how you help your student be successful. And a lot of our presentation and conversation this afternoon is going to be about how do you partner with the university on this newfound path. You know, whether you're watching this just a few days, weeks, or maybe just a couple of months before it's time to start, it is about that time. And you have invested a lot of energy and a lot of years in most cases getting this student ready for a collegiate experience. You see the pictures there on the slides. We hope that's what the fall is going to look like as some of you are coming and moving things in. We will probably ask you to move a little lighter this fall so that we can maintain a good amount of social distancing. But nonetheless, we know that that's an important amount of time. Some of you have probably already begun some of that Amazon shopping to collect all the belongings that they're going to need as they embark on a new college experience. That's an important time. We're doing it ourselves. I'm already knee deep in trying to figure out Excel sheets and why they are different than regular twin size sheets. But be that as it may, we're all getting ready. This is a time of important discovery. There are lots of belongings that they're going to want to bring, but I would assure you that the most important thing that your student is going to bring is actually going to be themselves. For all of the hunting from microwaves and toaster ovens and many refrigerators and school supplies, the single most important thing for any college student is in fact themselves. They don't come here as empty vessels. They're a combination of life experiences, of things that they have already experienced in terms of successes and failures. They have already been through quite a bit. And even these few months are teaching them newfound adaptability and resiliency skills. And so we know there's far more for them to learn throughout this experience. But it is your student that we want here at Carolina. It is that collection of special things that bring them to this place and the spot that they have earned. Now, as we talk a little bit about how you can be a good partner, one of the good places to start is to talk about your students themselves. You won't be surprised to know that we know a great deal about your students. They are an amazing bunch. They get more amazing every year. I sometimes joke and laugh with some of my colleagues here that you can't swing a stick on this campus and not hit a valedictorian in the eye. The amazing success stories of our students and what they have accomplished, they're incredibly smart. The credentials that they bring to Carolina improve each and every year. And as you, I'm sure, knew as a supportive family member, they worked really hard to earn their spot. We had tens of thousands of applications for people who wanted to be a Carolina student. And your student was one of that small percentage who was afforded that opportunity. So we know that they're incredibly smart. We also know that our Carolina students are very highly motivated. They have big goals and ambitions. In fact, our students aren't really accustomed to being told what they can't accomplish. Many of them have already been engaged in world-class cutting-edge research. Some of them have been involved in medical breakthroughs. Some of them have traveled the world over, certainly before the relative immobility of this new pandemic. But they have done really remarkable things, and they're motivated, and they come to Carolina with the desire to do great things. And along that same line, they're passionate. They care about things. They care about the world around them. They want to make a difference. Your students are going to be able to harness those passions when they're here, get a world-class education that will help them to chase and pursue those dreams. Something that is also very specific to the vast majority of our students, since they're on the younger side than some of us are a little bit gray-haired and older, they are what we call digital natives. They have never lived in a time without internet or social media. I'm coming at you through a video conferencing capability that just a few years ago I would have thought impossible. And yet our students are amazingly proficient with it. When we had to end the spring semester prematurely because of the health concerns, we had to transition over 98% of our courses to remote instruction. And we used a number of platforms, Zoom being one of them. Our students showed incredible proficiency in being able to adapt to things because they've lived with technology all their lives. For the average first-year student, for example, who may be 18, 19 years old, just remember they've never lived in an environment where they didn't have a smartphone in their pocket. Not just a cell phone, but a smartphone. One in which they were literally able to access the world of information at their fingertips. I always marvel at that when I sit and talk with my own kids about that experience. And they just can't imagine a time where you wouldn't have information on demand. I used to remark that we would go up and sit in Pepper's Pizza on Franklin Street. And for some of you who are Carolina alums, you may remember that place. And you would sit around and you would listen to the music coming out of the speakers, and you would think to yourself, I wonder who sings that song. And that's generally where that conversation would end. Because unless somebody knew that answer at your table, you were destined to just have to chalk it up to, I don't know. Nowadays, of course, you can open up an app, hold up the phone, listen to the speaker, and it will bring you down not only who the artist was, when it was recorded, but for $1.19 or so, you can order it off of iTunes. It's an amazingly different world. And there's much that we can do with that. But it's important to remember that that is the experience our students have had before they come here. And they have very high expectations about how we use and leverage technology as a part of their educational experience. Now, those are all amazing things. And I imagine you've seen most or all of these characteristics in your own student. But there is a flip side to all of this. And I think it's really important that we understand it collectively as parents and supportive family members, because it's going to be relevant to how we partner together to make them successful. We know also that your students are incredibly accustomed to success, and they are largely unused to failing. They have always been the academic superstars. In fact, some of them have never experienced the horror of a B. And yet, they are going to come here, and not all of them will achieve a 4.0. It doesn't mean they won't be really academically successful, but the level of success that they have enjoyed is hard to replicate at a collegiate level, and particularly a highly skilled place like Carolina. We also know that your students have, as many of us have been responsible, been very protected and facilitated. We have been the generation who have been able to do so many more things for our students that perhaps our parents and grandparents couldn't do for us. It doesn't mean they loved us any less or they didn't push us any harder, but we have been in a position to be able to be partners along the path in ways that we have often developed sort of characteristics that are not always charitable, right? We're sometimes the ones who've been referred to as helicopter parents, or most recently, I think I saw snowplow parents. We want to remove every obstacle from their path. We want to intervene. If a teacher's being difficult, we make the phone call. But those are all kinds of opportunities that need to devolve now to your student. Your student needs to take the driver's seat in moving forward their interests and learning to be a good and effective self-advocate. In part because of the hyperconnectivity that we talked about earlier, them being digital natives, we also know that students have expectations of immediate response. You know, we grew up often in eras where there wasn't an opportunity to demand immediate service because there wasn't even email. You had to find a time to either come by in person or make a phone call and hope that the answering machine actually worked on the other end if they weren't able to pick up the phone. But anyway you look at it, they are accustomed to getting immediate answers. And sometimes that can create strain when they come into an environment and they want to have all these things at their fingertips, and yet not everything is readily accessible. Students often send me emails in the wee hours of the morning and yet are surprised that I haven't emailed them back by 9 o'clock the next day. There's actually some time, of course, that us old folks need to process information. But the reality is your students are going to be very accustomed to instantaneous gratification and response when they have a question or concern. And finally, the last two things are interconnected. Every year, I talk about the fact that incoming students in this generation are more susceptible to stress and anxiety. We know far more about student mental health and well-being and the importance of them engaged in healthy activities and effective techniques to manage some of that stress. They're often feeling very competitive, not even with just each other, but sometimes competitive against themselves in the sense that they have to achieve certain things. Sometimes that becomes a little unrealistic, puts a lot of demands on them in ways that take a toll on their physical, mental, and emotional well-being. You're going to hear more about that during the course of some of the sessions that will be presented. But I also think it's really important that we highlight the susceptibility of that in this current era. I don't imagine for any of us that this hasn't been a terribly unsettling time. There's a lot of questions we haven't been able to answer. There's a lot of uncertainty out there about where things are headed, both from a public health standpoint and an economic standpoint. What will my college experience look like? Will it be disrupted as it was this past year? Will it be possible that we get back and we're fully moving along, but then somehow we have to regroup and do everything differently just a few months after getting started? We don't always have clear answers to that, and I recognize I don't know isn't always a satisfactory response. But all of us are going to play a role in helping to assuage some of that concern and anxiety and helping them learn the resiliency and adaptability skills that are going to be so critical to successfully navigating this time period. I also want to spend just a couple of minutes talking about some of the specific Carolina challenges that your student may face. I hope it's already evident to you that this place is academically challenging. There's a high degree of academic rigor. We don't make it easy for students to succeed because we're not here to confirm things that they already know. We're here to expand their educational horizons and hopefully have them reach higher and higher to be able to achieve academic success. So this place is likely going to challenge them. And for students who have always been at the top of their class, who have always gotten straight A's, they may experience their first measure of, in their mind, a lack of perfection. But getting a B or even a C in a really difficult class is not a sign of failure. All I ask of any student, and I hope you'll join me in asking of your student, is to do the very best that they can to meet their full academic potential. I've always told my daughters I would much rather have a B or a C in a class they worked hard in than an A that gave them no challenge at all. What they're here to get is not just a transcript. They're here to get an education. And we want to make sure that you're able to partner with us in ensuring that they leave Carolina with that opportunity. We don't know all the details yet about what residence hall life might be looking like in the fall, but in whatever format, and maybe even if they're just living at home with you for now, you've probably already experienced some of the challenges of communal living. You might have been getting ready to send this person off to school, and now they might spend a little more quality time with you, even this summer. Communal living can be a difficult adjustment. Some, but not all of your students, have enjoyed their own private personal space at home, maybe since they were very little. When I was young, my parents had enough bedrooms for all of us, but they didn't think it was that important that two young boys have their own space. And my dad always had the precursor to the man cave, a home office that he never actually used. But I know we're in a different era, and most of our students have not had to share a space. Some of them, in fact, enjoy bedrooms at home that will be larger than the shared residence hall space they would have if they come to Carolina in person this fall. And so there are some challenges in navigating that space. One of the things I commend to you is it is not our role as parents and family members to intervene in all of those squabbles. I hear every year of situations where parents or aunts and uncles have decided to take up the fight on behalf of their student with their roommate, which only means I have now more people embroiled in some type of a disagreement than helping students actually work out the challenges. Bear in mind that residence hall living is itself an educational experience. We want students to learn and master the tools of compromise, of being a good self-advocate, of working out arrangements, of negotiating through conflict using words and dialogue as opposed to passive-aggressive behaviors or worse. And so those are really important things that we talk about. The last couple of items are related, as you see there. It's getting connected and feeling the kind of different social pressures. That's going to take on more significance this year. In an era of social distancing or physical distancing, there's going to be a lot of ways that we have to disrupt the ways in which students would normally congregate and meet one another and spend time learning and hoping to develop from each other kind of an expanded set of beliefs and experiences. That's going to look different this fall. We need to do that, of course, for the overall health and well-being of the whole community, but we will be looking for new and creative ways to get them engaged. But I hope that you will continue to encourage them that whatever format they're engaged at Carolina, there will be opportunities to get involved. And a great, tremendously important part of the college experience is making connections with other people. Many of us have lifelong friends because of the relationships that we had in college, and we want to be able to foster those regardless of the environment. So the question I ask all of you is, are you ready for a new role? And the reality is, whether you're ready or not, here it comes. You are now going to transition from your existing family role to one of coach. And I think this is a really good analogy, because if you think about what a really good and effective coach does, it is somebody who is an encourager, somebody who's a nurturer, who can design the plays, who can call out, who can sometimes call the timeout when that's necessary and huddle up and maybe come up with a new game plan. But when the whistle blows, It's not the coach that runs out on the field or on the court, it's the player. In this analogy, your student is the player, and they need you to transition to being a really good coach. So what does that mean in practical terms as you send the student off to college? Well, it means helping to solve problems and not solving problems for them. They are not going to develop the skills to be successful in the long term of life unless they learn the skill set of managing some of those challenges themselves. That doesn't mean you have to abandon them or not be able to offer advice, but it does mean that where they can act on their own, they should be given agency to do so. It's certainly going to mean ongoing dialogue and conversation. And I hope you're going to use these summer months and weeks that you've had together to be engaged in really good and thoughtful dialogue. Talk about things that are important to the both of you. Make sure you're talking about your expectations and ask them what their expectations are. What do they want to get out of the college experience? You know, for a lot of them, it's career. For a lot of them, it's a graduate or professional school. But there are other components to what a college education offers. And it's important that we hear from them and know where they want to go. As we've already talked about in the context of residence hall living, we want to learn how to negotiate conflict. We are different people, even with the people you are closest to, a spouse, a partner, your own family, immediate family. You're going to have conflict. That's an inevitable part of the human experience. But how we learn to manage that conflict in healthy and constructive ways is just as important as all the other skills that they will acquire. One of my personal favorites from the standpoint of being a college administrator is, how do we help students understand the distinction between what they need and what they want? Like all of us, there are things I want, but there's not always the same list of things that I need. We are going to always endeavor to meet your students' needs. We're going to work hard to ensure that they have what they need to be successful. But that doesn't always mean we're going to be able to accommodate everything that they want. Some of our students, for example, very much want to not have an 8 a.m. class. That's not always going to be possible. They may need that class to make meaningful progress towards their degree. And so we want to help students negotiate and choose between what is a need versus what is a want. And then the last couple things down there, obviously we want to be positive forces. We want to encourage them to be engaged and take a variety of classes. That's what a liberal arts education is all about. There's obviously things they'll zero in on as a result of their major or their minor, but it is really important that they be able to experience a broad array of classes so they can test their passions and what they want to do with their futures. But we also want to temper that with encouraging a certain amount of realism and resiliency. As we're embarking on the fall of 2020, we are all acutely aware of the fact that it may not look like every other semester has looked. And even if it gets started, it could wind up changing anywhere along the path. That is an important way to learn resiliency skills. And we really want to help your students master that, because it's going to be so vital, not just during this time, but to their long-term success, even post-graduation. So as I conclude some of my remarks, I want to give you a little bit of homework. I know most of you are thinking, well, I'm not signing up for classes, so I don't want any homework. This homework is a little bit different. These are conversations that I hope that you have been having, but will continue to have. And let me also acknowledge what's on the screen there is not an exhaustive list. There are anything and everything that you should be able to talk with your student about. You're going to hear about a lot of these topics over the course of other presentations conducted as a part of this orientation experience. So I'm not going to address all of them, but a couple that I want to highlight. One in particular is communication. We're in an era where people are highly reliant now on communication because we can't just roll by and see each other in person. We've been forced to stay apart in ways that are very unusual for us. But communication is really valuable. And I know it has evolved and changed. A story I really want to share with you because it's been such an important part of my thinking about communication. Many of you watching this recording will remember the era of having to actually make long distance phone calls, well before all of us had cell phones in our pocket 24/7. I remember when I first came to Carolina, if I was going to call home, I had to make my way to the payphone that was located in the lobby of our residence hall so that I could reach my parents. Now, my dad is a pastor, so I probably get this style a little honestly. But I remember that he always had an expectation that I would call home every Sunday afternoon. I knew he would be home from his Sunday morning service, be sitting in his favorite chair, and we had an expectation that I would make that phone call. Now, when we're in person, I normally would ask you, how would I make that phone call? And I imagine a lot of you are immediately mouthing the words, a collect call, because we didn't have always calling cards. We didn't have flat rate long distance. And if there was a way I could pass the expense on to somebody else as a college student, I was going to do that. So I would make that collect phone call, get the AT&T operator on the other end of the line, and they would ask who was calling. I would identify myself by name, and then that information would be relayed to my dad, who would be listening on the other end of the line. But you know how that goes, right? The operator would say, you have a collect call from Jonathan. That was his one and only oldest son calling to let him know he was okay. My dad would always listen to that and then say, without a beat, every Sunday, I don't know anybody by that name, and then hang up the phone. Now, sometimes when I tell that story, people are immediately aghast and think, my goodness, how badly he treated you. But I do want to remind you that we had actually both accomplished everything we set out to do on that phone call. My father wanted to know that at least once a week, I could drag myself out of whatever ditch I had been laying in, dial the numbers to reach him at home, and speak my name. If I was able to do all of those things, he knew I was probably good for another week, and he didn't need to pay for a phone call to figure that out. Now, on the flip side, lest you think my feelings were hurt, one of the things I recognized is if we did get on the phone, he was going to start asking some questions, as parents often do. What kind of parties are you going to? Who are you hanging out with? What do your grades look like? I didn't really want to talk about those things with him, and so as a result, I was perfectly content with that arrangement. Now, fast forward, I have my own daughters. Do I think that would work for me today? Of course not, and I doubt it would work for most of you. What I really want to encourage you, and it's now more so important than ever before, please, before you part company, before you begin and embark on this collegiate experience, have a plan for how you want to communicate. If you want to talk every day, which I do not recommend, you are welcome to do so, but make sure you have a plan. Students inevitably drop phones, leave them back in their residence hall, can't find them, run out of battery. And what is always invariably going to happen is once a couple of hours go by and you can't reach your student, you're going to want to reach out to us and say, find my student. And truth be told, we are going to find your student because we do care about their well-being and we want to make sure they're safe and okay. Now, 999 times out of 1,000, they're not only okay, but they probably saw you calling and didn't want to talk to you right then. But it's really important if we want to sidestep that kind of experience and my sending the UNC police after them because we're trying to find out if they're okay, it's probably a good idea to have a good plan. So whatever works for your family, I'm okay with, but please have a good communication plan. And then last, and on a much more serious note, health and safety. This is important every year in terms of students taking appropriate precautions to safeguard themselves and their belongings, to make prudent choices, to walk in lit areas, to make sure that they're not taking unnecessary risks, because we want every student to be as safe as humanly possible. But we're also in an era we're going to be asking your students to do a lot of things that are going to feel unusual. We're likely going to ask them and maybe even require them to wear a mask when they're on campus in certain public settings like the classroom. We're going to ask them to take extra precautions in washing and sanitizing their belongings and making sure they're keeping the good hand and cold hygiene. There's a number of things we're going to need to ask of them so that the whole community can be safe. You can help us, you can partner with us by reinforcing those messages. We're all safer when we all participate in those activities. It's not always about just keeping oneself healthy, it's also about keeping the other members of this community healthy as well. And then finally, I want you to know that we here in Student Affairs are here to help. In particular, our Office of New Student and Family Programs, that is an office that is designed around you and your student. That's an office that you can be able to go to for help, and you'll get the contact information in a few moments. Check in on your student. Make sure you know that they're doing okay. That's going to be more important this year than ever before. We're all having ups and downs, good days, bad days, groundhog days where it seems like it never changes and the same routines are in place. Pay attention for those signals and signs of distress, major mood changes. And if you're concerned about anything, reach out to us. There's always much more we can do if we're engaged early on than if we're finding out information late in the process. So if in doubt, reach out. That's the really important message I want to leave you with today. I appreciate this opportunity to spend some time with you, albeit in an unusual format for me and probably for you too. but I really hope that you'll remember that we're here and available to assist you as your student embarks on their journey. And I do look forward to the opportunity to meet you in person somewhere down the road. As I conclude my remarks, I want to note that in just a moment, we're going to play a quick video from the Parents Council chairs, Doug and Beth Searcy, wonderful friends and allies as we continue to work through making this a special place. And then after that video concludes, you'll get to be reintroduced to Jen Mallon, our Director of New Student and Family Programs. I wish you all the best. I look forward to seeing you in one format or the other when we start in the fall. Take care, everybody.
As the national chairs of the Carolina Parents Council, we join many in welcoming you to UNC. We are Beth and Doug Searcy, and it is our pleasure to share a bit about UNC from the parents' perspective.
Neither of us attended the university, but we love it through the experience of our son. Carter is a senior in the Keenan Flagler Business School and Honors Carolina. He studied abroad twice. He works for the athletic department. He's found his people. None of it happened right away, but his experience in and out of the classroom have been everything he anticipated and more, and we wish the same for your student.
UNC Chapel Hill is an extraordinary place, and it lives up to its expectation as one of the top 5 research universities in the country, providing rigorous academics, research opportunities, social connections, athletic events, and a student body with diverse experiences. And Tar Heel pride runs deep.
We know coming to Carolina is a transition for the entire family. The Office of New Student and Family Programs is the on-campus resource for your transition. Carolina believes that family engagement adds to a student's success.
The Carolina Parents Council is the volunteer leadership group that exists as a voice for Carolina families and an advisory body to the Office of New Student and Family Programs. We also provide funding through grants to student organizations, academic departments, and office initiatives.
Through the office, you'll receive newsletters providing you with tools, strategies, and more to help your student. Use this information to stay informed because you may not hear many updates from your own student.
Maybe that was just our student.
You can also sign up for Carolina Alerts to receive critical campus updates.
Let me be clear. Our students' experiences belong to them now. As parents, we've given them roots and wings, and now as adults, they will find their way. The Carolina Parents Council is a separate opportunity to be involved in Carolina, to liaise with campus leaders about issues that matter to us, and to connect with other families who are like-minded in the pursuit of continued excellence for UNC Chapel Hill. To learn more, visit the website or email families@unc.edu.
Beth and I hope to meet you very soon. Traditionally, Carolina Family Weekend is held in the fall, and it sees thousands of family members descend on Chapel Hill. This year, it's slated for September 25th through 27th, and it's anchored by the UNC Georgia Tech football game. With COVID-19, we'll see what plans unfold. There'll be more opportunities for us to create connections between our families and UNC, so stay connected as updates become available.
Whatever happens, we're ready. We welcome you to the special community of Carolina families. Your students have worked so hard, and they're the best of the best, joining the best of the best. We share your pride in their accomplishments, and we stand with you as they take this next step in their journey.
Welcome to Carolina.
Welcome back, everyone. Again, my name is Jen Mallon, and welcome to the New Student and Family Programs Office. I wanted to take just a few minutes to close out this session today to teach you a little bit more about how our office is here for you as a Carolina family member and a new member of our Carolina community. The Office of New Student and Family Programs sort of has 2 missions. The first thing that we do is make sure that we have these transition programs for your students and for you as you are welcomed into our family and into our community. But the other part of what we do is that we are here to develop the ongoing relationship between family members of our Carolina students and our undergraduate families. And so that is the second part of our mission. And we do this and connect with you in several ways that I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to share with you today. The first way that we do that is that we try to help you stay informed about what's happening here at UNC Chapel Hill. During this orientation session, you're using our UNC Family Experience portal as your orientation hub to get all of the information you need to participate in this program. This platform is actually the place and the way that we communicate with you during your students' entire Carolina experience. And so on this slide, you'll notice that one of the things we recommend is that you keep your information up to date. So by being here today and participating in this program, we know who you are and you're in our system already. But if for some reason you want to change your email or you want to add another family member who wants to receive information about Carolina, it's in that portal, in that family experience that you will do that. Another resource that we have is our handbook. You received that electronically for this session. It's also on our website in a searchable PDF form. I find this super helpful because you can look up a topic whenever you need to and have it as a resource at your fingertips for this year and for your students' entire Carolina experience. There's a wealth of information in there. It shows a lot about the different offices on campus and is a great starting point if you're looking to make a referral for your student or for yourself. The last thing that Doug mentioned in the video is receiving Alert Carolina messages, and I wanted to just take a minute to talk a little bit more about that. That's something that we don't automatically sign family members up for. Every student, faculty, and staff has to have their contact information in our Alert Carolina system because it's how we receive information about campus closures and things of that sort. So if we have a snow day, they let us know that way. And we realize that not every family member is going to want to receive that level of detail. But if that's something that you're interested in, you'll hear more in the Carolina Ready session about how you would sign up for those alert messages through our Twitter feed and receive that as well. We also encourage all of our families to get connected and be involved. And so I want to talk about a couple ways that we do that. Throughout the rest of this summer and into the fall, we'll have additional opportunities for you to come together as Carolina family members to ask questions of us as staff, to get connected with other leaders on this campus, and to learn more about what this experience is going to be like for you and your student. We often have lunchtime conversations that we record, if you can't join us live, on topics that are of interest to families, like housing off campus or after the first year, or living on campus, study abroad, and other opportunities like that that we hope your students will pursue in their later years here at Carolina. Doug and Beth are our Parents Council National Chairs, and they mentioned that opportunity to you. It's a wonderful group that works really closely with our office, with our Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, and really the whole community to advise and provide service to the campus. And we want you to learn more about that if that's something that you think you might be interested in joining. So if you look at your orientation schedule, you'll notice a time where you can connect with members of that group and learn a little bit more about what it might be like to join that organization. There's also a wealth of information on our website, including information about how to sign up for that opportunity if that's something you want to explore. And then finally, Family Weekend. It's still scheduled for September 25th through 27th, and we hope to know a lot more in the coming weeks and months about what we're going to be able to provide in terms of that event this year. We'll get up a schedule as soon as possible, whether we're meeting in person or whether it's more of a virtual experience, and we'll let you know how you can connect with our campus during that time. And so as we wrap this up today, if you remember nothing else about the time that we've spent together today, I just want to let you know and really drive home the fact that New Student and Family Programs is your campus resource. I like to say that we want to make a big campus feel smaller. I want to be that first place that you all email or call to work with our staff if you have a question about Carolina. Hopefully we're going to know the answer, but even if we don't, we are meant to be that place to start, and then we'll get you connected to the right office on campus, or you get your student connected if it's something that they need to work through on their own. And we're really here to be that referral for you. So on the slide in front of you, you'll see the information for our office. It's also in your family handbook and on our website, so we're really easy to find. So use us as needed, connect with us, get involved in some of the things that make Carolina a truly special experience, not only for your students, but for you as a new family member. And with that, I welcome you to Carolina again. I hope you've enjoyed this time together today, and you'll enjoy the rest of your orientation experience. Thank you.